Presentation is our committee is, as you all being plant people know, if you get 5 horticulturists together, there's going to be 8 opinions which plant you should grow. And so we're not trying to tell you everything that we're going to have at the sale. There's no way we can cover that. And we're just talking about some of our favorites that we like and that have been successful plants in Mobile and plants that we wanted to highlight today. So if you have questions when we're done, I'm sure Candy will stay around and answer them all for you if you have any questions. So with that, I'll let her start with her first.
Well, first of all, I'd like to make sure everyone has picked up a ticket. We are going to have some giveaways. Not all of these are going to be given away, but a lot of them are. So please, we'll do that. And usually, what I do is when we talk about something and we give it out. Be mindful of the tablecloths today. These are, they're not dry and they're not clean. So if you do get one of the plants, just make sure you put it on the cement floor and we can keep the area just a little bit cleaner as we go along. Please ask questions. We do have handouts for various things. We're going to be talking about some roses, and I have a handout from the Rose Emporium in Texas on care for that. I also have a handout on going native, and it's a really good little handout, and we do have some native things that we'll be talking about. And I do have one on sun garden recipes, west side and east side, and that definitely means the west side of your house that gets that really bad summer heat that we get, and also the east side that gets that nice morning sun as it comes up. So we have those handouts for you, and just ask questions. So you want me to start? Okay, we're going to talk about camellias. And I looked at the list that we have for camellias, and we have a wonderful selection. This is a japonica. And I think it's Tar Baby. And if you haven't had a chance to go through the camellia garden or the winter garden, they've been exceptionally beautiful this year. And please take a moment if you can before they quit blooming, which is going to be coming up pretty quickly when the weather will warm up. But they're just beautiful to walk through that garden. We have not only japonica, which Tar Baby is a japonica, we have sasanqua, we have also handelii, we have a lot of different ones, and believe me, I'm not the expert. I wish Seth was here. He will be at the sale, and he's the one if you have questions about height, width, requirements as far as needing fertilizer when you do it. That's the time to really ask. I will tell you that most of them like just dappled shade or we call high filtered shade. I have some that were under a pine tree. The pine tree died, and they are absolutely gorgeous. And they get hot afternoon sun here in Mobile. So it just depends. It just depends on your environment. Fertilize in the spring, and they really do like an acid fertilizer for azaleas and camellias, and you can see that when you go. I get a slow release on that, and it'll tell you what it's for, camellias, azaleas, and it's a specific fertilizer. So read that, and if you have specific questions on fertilizing camellias, Seth is the one because he takes care of that entire winter garden for us, and he will be the expert and ask, and he will be at the sale Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. Okay.
Let me talk about the deciduous azaleas first. And everybody probably knows all about them, so I'm not going to talk about specific ones that we have, but just what to look for when you're getting a deciduous azalea. And this is an azalea that's a honeysuckle azalea, and it's quote unquote a native azalea. And when people ask for a native azalea, this is the one they want. It's the one that doesn't have any leaves in the wintertime. Technically, some of these aren't really native. They're hybrids with something else. The ones that you see with the real big blooms and all, and the ones that Martin Vandergiesen grows, the aromies, are technically not native, but they're, a lot of people call them native, and they're crossed with a native. So they're, for all practical purposes, we'd just call them all deciduous or native. But when you're buying your native azaleas, I want you to look at this one, because this one is really impressive. I had to bring this one. All of those buds that are swollen like that are going to be flowers in about 3 weeks or 4 weeks. And so that's what you want to look for on the plant when you're buying them. But don't be disappointed if yours doesn't look like this. You know, not all of them are going to have this. Some varieties have a lot more buds like this, and some are a little bit younger and they don't have as many, and they'll come along. But this is what we really try to stress with people at this sale, is this is a great time to buy them. We had a hard time finding enough plants here that look good, because this time of year, you know, it's right before they look good. And so you'd much rather have this ugly looking plant, the plant in your yard, and then when it blooms, it's going to be in your yard when it's blooming. But 90% of the public, when they're buying plants, they'll want that plant blooming, and then it's, you know, they plant in their yard, and 2 weeks later it's not blooming anymore. But it's amazing how hard a time we have selling these things without blooms on them. But I want you to look at them and see what we have here. And we've got one. We're not going to give this one away, unfortunately. But this is another one, and this is an Admiral Sims, and it's got a few of the buds on it, and it's a younger plant, of course, a 1 gallon. And this one is done very well in Mobile, and so this is a good azalea for us. So if we want to draw and give this one away now,
let's do a drawing now, and we'll give Admiral Sims away.
It's a yellow one.
Also, I wanted to mention, when you're shopping for these or shopping for any of our plants, the strap labels that are on there.
And you only get 1 ticket now, so if I see you coming up here and get 2 points.
378792. There you go.
All right.
Great. The labeling is really, we do strive to put almost everything you need to know, basic stuff, on the labeling. Now, when you're shopping for one that has a strap label like this one, people always ask me, where's the price? Where's the price? It's always on the very tip end of that label. And it tells you about the color, it tells you the name, it gives you really good information. On the other ones, like this one, is a pick, and it'll do the same thing. And the pricing depends on the color of the pick that's with it. And there are signage all through the garden, all through the shopping area, that you can look and say, oh, that's a green, it's a $10 plant, or whatever the color is. But the information on this is researched, and we have a team that does this, volunteers of course, and it really is just a good information piece. And I usually, when I plant something, I usually keep that there.
Andy?
Yes.
Let me add, in many cases, not even half our plants, but you will find a stand with a picture of the flower and some other information about the plant. So for instance, when you're looking at the deciduous azaleas, they've got wonderful names, but you don't know what they're gonna look like. And we have found pictures for probably 85% of them. So if you're looking for a dark orange one, you can pick out just by the picture and then read the text that will tell you how to cultivate it. And so signs like that will be scattered around, which supplement the picks that are in the plant. So we've tried to give you as much information as we can to be helpful in this garden.
Being from Mobile, I'm not going to talk much about azaleas. You know what the evergreen azaleas are, but where we have them categorized by size, that's usually the most important thing when you're putting them in your yard is how big they are, not the color of the bloom, although you do want to know that going against a red brick house or whatever. But me being a guy, that's not that important. The size of the plant, I'm going to have to prune it, or I'm going to have to move it when it gets too big. So The azaleas, we have lots and lots of native azaleas, and some of them you've heard of in the past, and some of them you haven't. Might have a Japanese name that you hadn't heard of. But the azaleas we pick, we work with the growers and try to pick ones that do well in our area. So we'll have a good selection of evergreen azaleas marked by size.
And John just went out this morning and picked these out of our, excuse me. He got them someplace else.
And they mentioned the sign over here in the back. There's a sign there. You can take a look at it if you want to before you leave. Go around it. It's got the categorized into large, medium, and small, and so that can give you some numbers. Now, all of those we might not have those on at the sale. At this sale, these are those were last year's plants, and some years we can get the same ones, and some years we can't. So
This is a cheat sheet that one of our committee members did, and small, medium, and large, and you can see the number of azaleas that are here. There's no way somebody comes up to me and says, I need a small azalea. Well, here we go. So that placard has helped so much. Yes, ma'am?
Small, do you mean the height of the?
yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Like small, she has on here Irish cream, which is a very popular one, 3 by 3. So you know if you want to put it under a window or someplace like that, it's not going to get so large. Now these plants, a lot of them are in 1-gallon pots. They're small, they're cute. That doesn't mean they're not going to be huge. So you really do, this is important to know, specifically if you are putting it in a place that you don't want it to cover up a window or whatever. So we have cheat sheets and we use them, and we encourage you to come and look at this placard. It will be there ready to go when we have our sale.
And since we're talking about favorites, I've got to tell you, Chin San is my favorite small azalea. Everybody's in yards nowadays are looking for azaleas that are small for their yard, and if I don't see too many people in here. Most of you people are in your 20s and 30s, I think, and so you don't go back that far. But the azalea that used to be popular for the small, everybody wanted gumpo azalea, and high notigary and Hershey red, and those. Well, they've advanced past those mostly, and we've got plants that survive a little bit better and look better all year. Some of those azaleas look good when they're blooming, but then they look ragged the rest of the year. And Chin San is a nice dwarf pink azalea that grows if you're looking for something that's going to stay, 2 or 3 feet tall. I would say probably 3 feet tall eventually. So that's my favorite. Have you got a favorite for evergreen azalea? You don't like evergreen azalea?
I do, but the deer eat mine, so I have problems. And
Can I
deer do
ask
love
about
azaleas.
pruning, please?
Pruning them.
Particularly pruning the deciduous?
Don't prune them. The deciduous ones, and when they get so big, if you're a gardener that is growing, and some of them you can drive down Government and see them, if you're a gardener that's growing them and they've gotten so big, they're gigantic, you can prune some of the branches out with a hand pruner or a lopper. Don't use a hedge pruner to prune them, and just pick select branches around them. But the deciduous azaleas, if you can have a deciduous tree, then that's great.
Well, the one I had was growing up
Over
over
the
the
hat,
roof.
right,
So,
exactly.
Will those, I have some that have buds on them, but will the ones that have been pruned, will they ever bloom again?
Oh yes, they'll bloom again. They'll bloom, they'll mature and bloom. Of course, if you cut them this time of year, they're not gonna bloom, and they may be a year. Some of those branches may be a little bit longer, but try to bloom azaleas. That's a good question. After they bloom, that's the time to bloom. To prune.
Okay. We're going to talk about agapanthus. And I know a lot of y'all have agapanthus. I love them. I like bulbs to begin with. They need full sun. Usually the height is about between there are some small ones, 1 and 4 feet. And I'm sure that probably includes that nice tall bloom spike that you see. I have found that they like to be almost pot bound, tight, and they bloom better when they're all kind of crowded in together. So if you do have an occasion that you need to move one of your agapanthus, don't expect it probably to bloom 1 year, maybe 2 years. It might be mad at you. Just depends. So, but they will come back in and they will start blooming again. We have, oh, and also I wanted to mention, they're heavy feeders. They like to be fertilized twice a year. So I'd fertilize in the spring and maybe again in the fall. And I'd use a slow release fertilizer and like a 10-10-10 or something like that would be perfect for them. On our sheet for agapanthus, we have a really good variety. We have blackjack, which is new to us. It's a very, very dark purple. We have ever amethyst, which is also a dark purple, but maybe just a little bit lighter than this blackjack. Getty white is white. Storm cloud is another one that is a purple. Twister. Twister is a new one. It has a white bloom, but at the base of the bloom, it's purple. It's really pretty. And then we have some that are just purple. And the one we're going to give away today is this one. And it's listed for us as just the plain agapanthus. And it has a light blue bloom. And so this is another one we're going to give away. So, oh, here we go. All right.
I get to draw.
John gets to draw this time. Yes, ma'am.
It may be obvious to a lot of people, but how often does it bloom? Is it a single bloom for a few
Some I've
weeks,
read
or-
that'll bloom more than
'Cause I can't get
once.
mine to bloom more than just once a year.
Once a year. I think some are more prone to bloom more often, and I'm not sure which ones those are. Mainly you have one good bloom cycle. And I really like the leaves too. I mean, they're mine went down this winter. If it gets cold enough, they'll go down, but they jump right back up. So it's good too.
Just one more thing, this will note, just to let everybody know how hardy they are. They're extremely hardy. I had bulbs I got from my brother. They sat in a plastic bag on the back porch for 2 years.
Oh my gosh!
I put water in it periodically, planted those things, and they came
There
up.
you go.
You cannot kill everyone.
They did not get mad at you.
No.
Might be a while before they bloomed though.
They've been blooming.
Did they?
Yes.
Awesome,
Yes, so
awesome.
I'm just like.
Awesome. All right, so John.
772 between questions. 772.
All
All
right.
right.
Here we go.
Now, was there a question?
There
No question.
you
Okay.
go. All right.
Go ahead.
You're on porterweed. You're up.
We don't have a porterweed, and I just want to talk about that because that's one of my favorites. If I have a plant that I can recommend to somebody that wants a hummingbird plant, that is the one that I recommend. It is crack for hummingbirds. I mean,
And butterflies.
and butterflies. If you have a porterweed and you don't have hummingbirds in your yard, I almost guarantee, I can't guarantee you 100%, but I almost guarantee you'll see a hummingbird. And after saying that, I just want to put that in your mind to get you wanting them so bad. Is ours are small right now, and so I don't even know if we'll have very many.
They've just been
sale.
potted up, and the root system has just not caught up yet. But we will have some for our marketplace, definitely. We have red, peach, and purple. And I don't think it matters. The hummingbirds don't seem to mind.
That's
Or
a
the
horticultural
butterflies.
controversy now. The master gardeners will argue about that one now, so.
Do you have the small ones, the dwarf ones, or just the big ones?
We do not have the dwarf ones this year, and that one is a challenging one to grow. I'm glad you asked that question because the dwarf one doesn't overwinter ever. The other ones will overwinter. Well, it depends on if you're a good gardener or not. If you're not a good gardener, that'll overwinter every year. But the other ones, those are very tender. They're a different plant, and they take forever to grow. That's why they're dwarf. And so it's a lot more expensive for us to grow them, but yet people want them for the same price as the other ones. And so you almost have to overwinter them. You can't grow out a nice big plant in one season, and so you almost have to overwinter them and sell them the next year. And so now I've got hands raised telling me mine survived the winter.
What kind of conditions do they typically like?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I got a dwarf one at the last measurement.
Okay. A purple one or a red one?
Red one.
Okay.
And so it, got up about this high.
Yeah.
And, now of course it's just the round stalk.
Yeah.
Do I cut it at the ground?
You can cut it at the ground. You can probably pull it up because the dwarf one is not going to come back.
Probably not.
I won't guarantee again, but I have not seen it survive. And there may be a courtyard, or you may have it against a wall, or it may be a possibility. And if it does, let me know because I'd like to know. But I haven't seen that one come back.
What do they look like?
Okay, I'm sorry. A porterweed.
They have, the ones we're growing right now can be as tall as me. Big, long, arching, branching, and the bloom is very interesting. It's slender and long, and it starts at the base, and it might come up maybe 5 inches or so with the blooms all around. And that stays for a while, and then that goes away, and then it moves on up that bloom stalk.
And they're tiny little trumpet-shaped blooms. That's why the hummingbirds like them, is they have that kind of flower. And so if you look at a single bloom, or if you look at a plant that we're selling if we have them relatively sizable in the sale, they're not really that impressive. The bloom stalk is like 12 or 14 inches long, but only 3 or 4 blooms are blooming on it. But if you have a plant like by the middle of the summer or the end of the summer when the hummingbirds are coming through, they're covered with those things, and so you really get a lot more color than you do on the plant when it's small.
Give it some space when you're putting it in your garden. Also, I haven't cut mine back yet. I'm still looking, and sometimes I'm very surprised and pleased when I see all that new little growth coming up. I mulched mine heavily, but I also took cuttings. Cuttings are easy to do. You can do them at home, but just as a way to safeguard that I would have enough porterweed for the incoming season, summer season.
And well, to stress what she said, it doesn't come back quick. So it's not going to be one of the first things. So you may think it's dead, but just keep waiting. And
don't rip it out.
It doesn't. It takes a while sometimes to come back.
Yeah.
What kind of soil and light conditions does it need?
Full sun, likes full sun. Soil well drained.
You get a lot of sand.
You're perfect for it, because I do too.
But it'll need water.
And yes, and when we get hot, if we get up to 95 like we did this past, then it's gonna need some water. Okay. Any other questions on porterweed? Okay. The next one on our list is Radio Red Salvia. And this is our Radio Red. These came in as plugs for us. I'm not really sure exactly how long we've had them, not very long. Whoever wins this one, it's really not fully rooted down in this pot. So you might want to keep it in the pot, keep it till maybe after Easter when you know we're not going to get some awful freak, frost coming in. But put it out. This is another one that just comes up and fills out, and on the terminal end is a tubular red flower, and it's also a good hummingbird plant. I treat these as annuals. They may come back, they may not. Taking cuttings of these is very easy, just to ensure that you've got it for next year. I guess it's going to get about, 2 feet up, 2 feet wide if that far. To keep it blooming, to keep it sort of in check, I always prune it. And you can see where we've pruned this one just to get a little bit more bushier plant to grow. I have 72 of these in the greenhouse right now. And I don't know that they're going to be ready for the sale because we don't wanna sell anything that is not fully, really rooted down, that you can put it in the hole and everything just doesn't come apart. But we will have it for Marketplace, they'll definitely be ready for Marketplace.
Explain Marketplace.
Oh, usually we have Marketplace coming after the sale, possibly 2 weeks usually after the sale. Saturday mornings, 9 to noon, am I right? Plants that are available that wouldn't be available maybe this early in the year for our spring sale. And some things are just being also offered at Marketplace. We do supply color meaning things that are blooming maybe annually, things that are blooming for people, and odd things to find. We try not to duplicate what you can get at Lowe's, Home Depot, or any of the larger garden centers, but something a little different and unusual that we can present to you. So I don't have the exact dates yet for Marketplace, but usually that's when it happens, about 2 weeks after, and on a Saturday morning, 9 to noon. Oh, and we're gonna draw for this.
Judy has a number.
Oh, Judy, okay.
779.
That's neat.
Oh, good, okay. And you can see, this is just a nasty.
You win something every
You
time.
might wanna put it just on the cement there.
All right.
Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much.
Is there a list or anything on what you're gonna have on Marketplace when you get ready to have it?
We try to maintain a list that after the sale, we try to get an inventory, and I'm not gonna put that work on the secretary and director here at the thing, so I won't guarantee you, but we try to put something together for it, and I know every week she has on her, if you're not on it, you can get on the email blast, I think even if you're not a member, but we encourage you to be a member. She highlights some of the stuff that we have, but there is a list. I just don't know how accurate it'll be.
All right, Rosalia, you wanna do that one?
Okay, real quick. This is a Rosalia equisetiformis, okay? And this one's blooming, but I think this one's been in a greenhouse, so that's why it's blooming. Again, the trumpet-shaped flowers, that's a hint that it's gonna be good for hummingbirds and butterflies. And let's see, equisetiformis, you know, I'm not trying to be real smart or anything, but I wanted to give you that name because it's equine. Equisetiformis is from equine, and this looks like a horsetail, that terrible horsetail plant, but it's not. So this is horsetail Rosalia. We have another one called Sarmentosa, excellent. And it doesn't have this type of foliage. It has more leaf blades, but it also, the flowers go out in what's that called?
Arch.
Help me out. Yeah, it arches out. See, this is why I'd have to have somebody here. It arches out and makes a beautiful plant. And it is also a real good hummingbird plant, as is this one. Now, correct me on if I'm right or if I'm wrong, but the equisetiformis is the one that's more winter hardy.
I think so.
The Sarmentosa is less winter hardy than this one. Sometimes it survives and sometimes it doesn't. Again, in your garden, you may be shaking your head and saying, yeah, they do or they don't. But this one survives. A lot of people like this one on their patio or deck in a container, and they'll bring the container in just to make sure, and then the next year it'll come out a little bit quicker and all. But this one stays pretty green all year, and so this is another one that's a good plant, full sun, and it's like I said, this one is more perennial than the Sarmentosa. And we're gonna draw for this one. This one we're giving away.
I want that.
While you're drawing, there's somebody with a dark blue Genesis in the parking lot whose lights are on and have been on for some time. Oh, that's me.
Maybe you can send Norman out there and he might get them for
He's
you.
up here with his card to help somebody.
773. Okay, now that's only one. Now you can't have two tickets.
Quick question. Is
Yeah,
that a
just sit
smaller-
there.
a smaller version, cause I see
They get bigger, that gets
That one
bigger,
will get
yeah, that
bigger.
one is gonna get bigger, and that's why I say it's
my
more
psychic.
perennial, it grows a little bit taller.
All right, the next plant we've got is a Louisiana iris. And, where did it go?
No, I moved it, keep you on your toes.
This is Rocky Hunt. And, right now, the irises in my garden look absolutely fabulous. They love to start jumping and running and looking beautiful. And, you might think Louisiana iris needs to be in a bog. Well, it doesn't. It doesn't need to be in a bog. You can help it along by mulching it, keep it moist but not soaking. And it just blooms. This one blooms, I think, a dark purple, I think is my note said on this one. We will have quite a few irises coming in, and they're all different colors. We have an Ann Chowning that's red. We've got a new one called, is it Elvis? Red Velvet Elvis. And I guess you could guess what color that is. And then we have, of course, Waha Wedding, which was very popular. We're getting that back again, and it is more of a white, I think. There's just a ton of different ones, and if you want to look up specific colors, pull up the list that's online and look up the ones that you're interested in that we will be offering. They're heavy feeders, these irises. They use an acid-loving fertilizer, such as one for azaleas and camellias. So if you have irises already and you have azaleas and camellias, get enough so you can also fertilize these. And just keeping them mulched during our hot days so that they're not really left to dry out. And we're giving Rocky Hunt away. Any questions on the irises?
She mentioned they don't have to be in a bog, but that's one of the biggest questions we get here is, I need something for a wet area, I have a wet area. They do well in a bog, or they do well in a wet area, so if you've got a low area or a wet area, they do surprisingly well.
All right, so 778. Oh, good.
Katie, do they multiply?
They do. That rhizome will, and it is a rhizome that these are growing from. And and when you're planting them, you don't want to cover that rhizome over with soil. Mulch, I think, is okay, but not soil. And so that rhizome will it'll move on out, and so you'll have quite a few from that.
We don't have a Gara, but that was the one you wanted.
We don't have a Gara with us, and I don't know why we didn't pick up a Gara. But it's, sometimes people know it as a whirling butterfly. Blooms in the spring. The ones we have are white blooms. There are other colored pink, darker pink. I've had more luck with just the white and not the different colored ones. Not to say that I've gone down the road and saw somebody's and they look absolutely fabulous that are pink. The name comes from the wind blowing those blooms around, and it needs full sun. It likes well-drained soil. It would benefit from a slow-release fertilizer in the spring, and I've had them overwinter successfully. So we have a good offering of our Gara. We have actually 72. We brought them in as plugs, small little plants, and we potted them up, and now they've filled out that gallon and they're ready to go. So any questions on the Gara? I'm so sorry, we just didn't think to bring them.
How big?
I guess not that big. 1.5 to 2 feet at the most, and that includes the bloom, the bloom will come up.
So it could go under a window.
It could definitely, just make sure it likes sun, full sun. Okay, any other questions? All right. Citrus.
Okay. Real quick, don't have a citrus to show you, but the citrus is something we like to grow or sell in this time of year because you always hear us drumming into you, fall is the time for planting, fall is the time for planting trees. Well, citrus is the exception to that. Spring is the better time to plant citrus, and we hope to have a good selection of citrus. We haven't gotten that in yet. It's coming in next week, and so this grower's pretty good about getting us what we asked for. But if you're new to growing citrus in Mobile, you want to start with a Satsuma, and Owari is a standard. If we get different varieties of Satsumas, then they're good also. But Owari has been around forever, and it's the standard. And then Meyer Lemon is another plant that is hardy. Those are the first ones on the hardy scale as far as the furthest ones to be able to stand the cold. Kumquat is the next one, and I don't know if we got any kumquats coming in this year. I don't think they had any kumquats, but the kumquat is another one in the future. And then you go down the list, the oranges and some of the other things. And if you're a super grower and you've grown citrus for several years, you can graduate into those. I see Hamlin orange is on our list, and that is a great orange for our area. It used to be the juicing orange in Florida. That was the one that they grew for juicing. And how many people here listen to Bill Finch on Sunday morning? Is there anybody that knows who Bill Finch is? Is everybody listen to him? You'll hear him mention that one, and that's a great one for our area. And he says that one comes from that's what they used to make ambrosia. That was the original orange for making ambrosia with. So that one is a good one. If we get that one's nice. The other thing that I like to mention on citrus is it's very expensive. You might have sticker shock when you see citrus nowadays, but there's a couple of diseases. If you've noticed, your orange juice doesn't taste good anymore. When I was a kid, orange juice was really sweet, and now it seems to be getting worse and worse. And the reason the orange crop for juicing in Florida, all oranges in Florida, has gone from I can't even think of the numbers, but it's a third to a fourth of what it used to be just 10 years ago. And there's a couple of diseases that are just wiping it out. And so those diseases are moving our way, but because we're backyard growers, we're not industry. Hopefully it'll be slow enough where they can figure out what to do to take care of it before it ends Satsumas in our area. But I just to warn you, the citrus is an expensive plant, so get them and take care of them.
And we're getting these, they're coming out of Lower Louisiana, a good grower that we've dealt with for many, many years, and have never really had any kind of issues with any of the citrus that they send us. So, but we haven't got them in yet, they're coming. This is my absolutely favorite. And I don't know if y'all have heard me talk about this one before. It blooms now, and it blooms during the coldest time. It was knocked down when we had that heavy frost come through, and I turned around and looked, and it sent up a bloom spike. This is a giant calla, and it's a type of bulb. It might falter a little bit in 95 degrees. I grow mine in high filtered shade. It's actually underneath an oak tree, but I wouldn't put it out in the direct sun. I'd keep it in a little bit of a shade. I fertilize it slow release in the spring, or now my bulb has expanded, and now I can only imagine what it must look like because I have several of these now coming up, and it's been in the ground for 2 years. It is just different. We don't see it that often. It's unusual, and it's easy. It's just easy. So we will have some of these on the sale. It may get that bloom spike may get up to here. It just depends on This is just starting now, you can see it just starting to unfold.
Does it get more foliage?
It might get, yeah, it should get a little bit more foliage on it. This one just has, you can see this is a new leaf coming up. And it does have these little characteristic little spots on it, little white spots. So this is the giant calla.
Can you
And-
grow it in a container?
You could, absolutely, absolutely. And we're giving this one away, so let's draw for it.
Who wants it?
All she wants it. This is it.
796.
Ah, there you go, there you go. Good for you, Denise.
When you say easy, you mean hardy or just?
Both.
Okay.
Okay.
It is both. I don't do anything to it except maybe fertilize it. Nothing. Nothing. It is just, I don't see anything eating it. I don't see any problems with it. It just blooms and is happy until we get 100 degrees.
So
Yes.
would it be good in, like, where you have hostas and that kind of thing?
It would be.
Okay.
It would be. Because it does need that high filtered shade, just like a hosta would.
Both of mine are in pretty heavy shade and they seem very, very happy.
You're happy with yours? Yes,
Very
can't
happy.
say.
Some of my favorite plants in the yard.
Good, good, yes. Okay, we're gonna talk about,
Milkweed.
and you got 2 pots.
Yeah. This is an opportunity to talk a little bit about picking plants out. And this is milkweed. And a lot of times at our spring plant sale, when you buy plants, and we fight with people selecting plants, and we don't want that plant because it's just gonna be a pot of dirt and all. But we know that these plants are not gonna look good now, but that's what you want them to look like right now. And you can see this one is coming up a little bit. It's got a little bit coming up. It's a swamp milkweed. And this one is a butterfly milkweed. See how great it looks? That's what you want yours to look like at home now, so take good care of it.
Pot of dirt?
Yeah, exactly. How much do you want for that pot of dirt? And that's a green pick, so
That's $10.
$10.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, I was gonna say that, the tuberosa, it actually is like a potato looking, root in there, and it comes up from that. And absolutely, the bloom on it is bright orange, bright orange.
And this is the one, tuberosa is the one that everybody thinks of when they think of milkweed, because it's a butterfly milkweed. But it's really not the best one for the monarchs. You'll know the leaves are smaller, and they eat them, and they'll eat them down to the ground. And I know they like them, and they'll eat them. But as far as the population, they need a whole field of these to attract them to a place. But the national press is into monarchs, and it's a big thing. And so we have milkweed. And the swamp milkweed is a tough one, and it has bigger leaves, and it's a good one too. I'm not discouraging either one of these are good plants for a garden and for the monarchs. But
The swamp, is that the incarnata?
yes,
Okay, I had those in the garden last year, and they were gorgeous, and when they bloomed,
Like them?
they were covered
with
with butterflies.
and then what about the leaves? Did you get the caterpillars on the leaves?
Yes, yes.
And see, monarch, just to give an anecdote as far as monarch, the butterfly milkweed and the other milkweeds are really hard for a nurseryman to grow, because you're growing them for the caterpillars to eat, and so you can't really spray them with a whole lot of stuff, and so it's a challenge to grow them sometimes, because aphids love them, and several other insects really like them. So, right, yeah, but when you have 10,000 plants, it's hard to go through there and do that. Yes, ma'am.
Is one of those a native?
Both of these are native. Both of them are native. The only, well, I won't even get into the non-native milkweed, because we'll get into a fist fight. But we're giving these away.
We're giving these
So
away.
These are.
So we need a ticket for one, and then, we'll give away
Yeah,
the
give each one. Yeah, let's give away the incarnata first.
incarnata
Now,
first.
while we're giving it away, let her draw it. While we're giving it away, is you can knock these plants out. I don't want to do it here and make a mess and look and convince yourself that they do have roots. They should have white roots around the edge. If you knock it out and it falls apart, then you don't want the plant. But if you'll, you know, you get these pots of perennials that we're selling, and if you don't believe it, just knock them out and look for that white root. And it may not be, some of the nurseries that we get from may have potted them a little bit late, and so the roots may not be to your satisfaction, but that's what we
We
should
do
get.
try, we do try. Okay, so, for that one, 794. Okay, there we go.
Are both of them orange?
No.
This one's kind of a pink.
Pink?
Yeah.
Pinkish
Wait,
white.
what?
Sure
Pinkish
don't.
white.
Have a
But we're
large amount
talking-
of them, they are just,
And the other one is 799. 799.
the only problem I have is they don't always come back, are they supposed to come back?
Yeah, that is a problem, and that's the problem we have with growing them, is it's hard to grow them, because you can't keep them, they like it a little dry, and in our summers are not, our winters are not dry, and so when they don't have any foliage on them and they get wet and they stay wet, they sometimes don't come back.
You got it, 799? Okay.
Most of these really like a dry spot, so if you get them in a dry spot, hey, wait a minute. Okay.
That was her, as long as it was honest.
Okay.
What did you say to do for the aphids on them?
Squeezing them with your hand,
Oh.
but you can use oil or salt. I mean soap, not salt. Not salt. Oil, it's a horticultural oil. Are you familiar with that? If you go to the, they sell it as all seasons, or it's a horticultural oil. It's safe and it's organic, and but they also sell soap, insecticidal soap. Now, a lot of people make up their own soap, and you just have to be careful when you do that, because soap will take the cuticle off, and the insect labeled insecticides that are the actual soap are not as bad as that. And so I'm not telling you not to do what you're.
What oil was that? You said?
It's called All Seasons in the big box stores and where you can find it. That there used to be a vocal oil. There used to be a oil that was only dormant. It was a dormant oil, and so that's why they call this one All Seasons. You can spray it in the summer, except when it's 95 degrees or something. Just read the label. Anything that I'm telling you, you always read the label, because
It won't hurt the caterpillars?
if you spray it on the caterpillar, it might.
Spray it on the caterpillar.
That's the way these work, is they suffocate the insect. They clog up the spiracles, what they breathe through, and it suffocates them. And so
What about the beneficial bugs? I'm trying to cultivate like ladybugs and lacewings.
all the experts tell me that that's the chemicals to use, or that's the product. They're not even chemicals. Those are going to do less damage to the beneficials. Now, there's nothing magic about the beneficials. They'll get hit by the stuff too, but they're not as damaging to them.
How can we cultivate more of them? Short of like ordering them?
That's another talk.
Add that to the list.
Is that a Neem's oil?
There is a neem oil, but that's different. That's a different one. That's an organic one too. And I'm not as familiar with that personally. I'm not familiar with that one as much. I haven't used that one in the past, but that one is a good product too that you could use.
Yeah, I use neem oil on our winter garden.
Right.
Yeah.
All right, the next plant is a buddleia, or butterfly bush. This has a story, this one does. We grow up on Magnolia Hill. Most of our sun plants end up there, and they're grown out up there. And this little guy escaped and started growing on the side of the fence, and it got bigger and it got bigger, and we didn't really know the parented. It just came up. It came up in the gravel, and it was like this, and beautiful blooms on it. I think they're pink. So we said, okay, well, you're a gift to us. We're going to use you. So we propagated it, and we call it Magnolia Hill Pink, which is where we found it. And this is a little guy right now, but he gets up there and is a very good grower, produces some beautiful pink blooms. and the butterflies love it. So
Those
this
are
is,
kind of bottle brush looking balloons.
yeah, I guess you could say so, yeah, a little bit. Not quite as fine as a bottle brush. So expect this needs full sun, likes full sun. Well drained, but it doesn't like to be dry. Fertilize it in the spring. And be expecting it to be a large, rather large plant. We've got on here 5 to 8 feet. I doubt it'll get 8 feet, but it gets wide too. So we have plenty of these down for our sale, and this one we're gonna give away. So.
You want to draw?
You've already got them.
Lydia, I noticed that.
They're stuck together now down at the bottom. There's tape down at the bottom. 7, 6, 9.
Okay, marvelous, here we go. All right. There you go. Jane, give it some room.
We're running out of time.
Okay, let me, real quick. Can I talk real quick?
Mm-hmm.
Another one of my favorite ferns. And this is East Indian evergreen. What I like about this fern is that it has this nice limey colored streak that goes down the middle. So you see it in a shade garden. It picks up other lime colored plants that you might have in a shade garden. Like if you have like xanthosomas, they're always a little bit limey. And it's there. It doesn't require anything except just some water and maybe some fertilizer in the spring. East Indian fern. And we have these at the sale, and we're going to give this one away today. And it gets a little bit bigger than that one. I wouldn't say it probably gets about that tall, and bushes out. But it's great. You might want to put it maybe in the middle of your shade bed where you have something a little smaller in the front.
788.
You got it. All right? And I have a lot of favorites. This is called Ragin' Cajun. It's a Relia elegans. This is another plant that hasn't quite filled out its pot yet. We got it in as a plug. And you can see it's going to be covered with these bloom spikes orange. It comes back from me every year. It is reliable. Hummingbirds love it. It kind of wants to go not as much up, but a little bit further out. It's a great plant. You don't have to do anything to it. You just have to say, there it is, it's coming back. Don't dig around it until it starts coming back, but then give it some fertilizer in the spring, and you're good to go. This is Ruellia elegans Ragin' Cajun. And I won't say that again. All right, we're giving this one away.
Let me talk about tomatoes while she's doing that a little bit. We'll have some tomatoes. We'll see if they'll be big enough for the sale, but we'll definitely have them for marketplace. But we'll have a few tomatoes, and we grow tomatoes that have historically done well for us. I can name a few of them for you. We really like Sun Gold. That one is one that's a favorite of the botanical gardens here, and it is one that has gotten to be, it's just a good cherry tomato. And that's one that in Mobile, again, if you listen to Bill Finch, he likes to talk about tomatoes. That is one that in our area, the cherry tomatoes do a whole lot better than the big tomatoes. It's hard for us to grow big tomatoes, but the secret is to plant them early. And so if you can get them planted as early as you can and get your crop in, and then just don't expect anything after the 4th of July. I mean, we're not Maryland and Virginia and Tennessee and Maine, and where they have the nice tomatoes in June, August, and so you just get your tomatoes in and then plant another crop and maybe get a fall crop. But the cherry tomato, Sun Gold, Sweet 100 is one that is a good one. The one that Bill has talked about for a number of years is called Santiago. That one's a hard one to find, and we're trying to grow that one this year to see. We grew it last year, and we're trying to grow that one. And to me personally, the Better Boy, the Celebrity, the Atkinsons, the old standard home garden tomatoes are great for here. They do well for us, but if you plant them early, you gotta plant them early and get that crop in before the bugs and the heat gets here. And so that is the secret to growing decent tomatoes. And those are the big, nice slicing tomatoes. And again, like tomatoes, everybody has their favorites, but those are the ones that we're gonna have. And don't come on Thursday night expecting a big crop of a whole bunch of tomatoes at that. We'll have to dribble them out. But the person who grows the tomatoes here hadn't figured out how to grow them with the greenhouse here. He could grow them at his other place. He had the temperature and all, but it's just like it's different conditions, and so you have to decide, when to plant them, early or later. I'm not saying it's better or worse. It's just different. It's different. So.
Number. All right, the number for this is 770.
That's me.
Okay. Yeah. Nice.
Does that have a common name?
I don't know it.
They call everything with a red flower firecracker plant. And so if you call it firecracker plant, there's no telling what you're going to get.
I don't know.
So.
Okay.
All right, we have 3 plants left. You can talk about this one.
Okay.
You want to? Okay. The roses. We have a wonderful selection of roses, and I have 2 to give away today. And this little guy didn't get quite enough water. It's a little bit droopy. But this is Mrs. R.B. Cant. And 1905 it was introduced. It is what they call a cabbage rose. It's a good cut, a very aggressive grower. It is red with a silvery look to it. That's, I'm thinking about how they described it. Give it some space, let it grow, and it's just a real fun rose to have. Full sun, of course. Fertilize it in the spring. Let me see, what did my notes say? Anyway, fertilize it in the spring, and then you may need to hit it again. I do have a handout from the Rose Emporium in Texas. Good grower of these roses. These are old roses, and we like them here because they do not get a lot of diseases on the leaves. They will get spots. They won't be free of them, but not like some of the other roses that you see that really are not designed for us. So when you get one of these older antique roses, you really you're getting one that's been through time and tested, and it grows really well. They're in quarts because we grow these. We're growing our roses now, and they're probably just about ready to bump up, pot up to a bigger pot, but we're not quite ready. They won't be. We have some for sale, but and also we have some of these. If you look online, you can go through and look and see all the different roses that we will have for sale. And so let's do Mrs. R.B. Cant, and let's get her out the door.
How tall does she get?
Oh, she'll go right on up.
This is a
So-
climber.
She's not considered a climber. That wasn't how it was
It's
listed.
a large bush though.
She's a large bush rose, and she'll go more vertical, I think, than more. So 768 for Mrs. R.B. There you go. All right. And water it when you get it someplace. It needs it. Now the other rose we have is okay. This is let me see if I can pronounce it. Madame Laurette Mezzanine. And she has clusters of blooms. You can see where Mrs. Cant had one single bloom coming up. These are clusters. They are kind of a salmon color. She was introduced in 1897. She's been around a while. She's tested and an excellent rose. I don't know the full height on this. You can look it up. You can look up any of the roses on the list that we're having. Some of them are climbers, some of them are just you need to know you're getting a big rose. And so this is another one we're giving away. Any questions on any of the roses? Okay, sorry we're out of time. 7, 8, 9. There you go. All right. You just pass this back. Oh, no? 7, 8, 9? No?
We had one person that left,
Oh, okay.
and so it could have been, or is that?
Oh, you have 7, 8, 9? There you
Oh,
go.
okay, good.
Oh, you're good. Thank you.
But we did.
And then John and I both are gonna talk about this last plant. This is a calmia. Evergreen,
Mountain laurel.
mountain laurel. The blooms on it are in clusters. They could be, I'm not sure what, this is a pink, is it a pink? Hold
I don't
on,
think that
let's
one's
see.
a pink one.
Pink, light pink flowers.
They've all got light pink, but
Light
some of
pink
them are
flowers.
a lot more,
Some of them a little
selected
darker.
to darker.
Yeah. This is a nice shrub. It can get 6 to 8 feet tall. It likes mainly shade. It will tolerate some other conditions, but most of the time you think about a mountain laurel being in shade.
Mountain properties covered with.
Don't be scared away by the name. It's mountain laurel. It's there, believe it or not, it's native to here, you know, as well as in the mountains. It's probably, what's the word, provenance. It's probably, you know, the ones that grow well here probably don't grow as well up there, and the ones up there don't grow as well here. But it is, looks the same, and it's the same kind of plant if you're familiar with going to the mountains and seeing it bloom up there. It really is nice in the shade, like she said. It's a good plant for us.
Yeah, a deer like it. I can tell you that. They like my mountain laurel. I have 2 of them, and I keep thinking, okay, it's gonna bloom, and then I go back and they've nibbled. So, but this is a great plant. It's an unusual plant for us. You don't see it very often, and we are giving this one away. So I need somebody to draw.
I've got it.
Okay.
It's 7, 7, 1.
Okay. There you go. We do have the handouts. If anybody is interested on the Sun Garden, west and east side, native plants, native trees. Okay, and somebody's going to be oh, they're on the table. And if we run out and you still want more, we can make more copies. And this is on the rose care from the Antique Rose Emporium. And so it's just good information on roses in general.
I wanted to say one more thing before you go, and I'll let Judy talk a minute too. But first is when you come to the sale, we're not experts. You know, the people that we have there, we can't design and pick out all the plants for your garden and all, but we can help you. But it's good if you come to the sale with some information on your own. Know the kind of places where you want these plants. If you know, if it's full sun, if it's shade, if it's wet, if it's dry, if it's east facing or north facing, then the people can give you a lot better idea. The people helping can give you a lot better idea, and even pictures. I mean, we'll take a look at a picture. We're not going to design your garden or anything, but we can look at a picture and say, oh yeah, that would be a good plant for there, or so forth. So if you come prepared, you're likely to come away happier than not.
Could I ask a quick question about the tomatoes?
Sure.
There've been a few years where you've had tomatoes early, what was it, tomato blues or
Mm-hmm.
something? And if you don't get them in the ground soon enough, you're not gonna have enough tomatoes.
Right.
So is there a possibility?
We'll pass that on to the management. That
Especially since it's gotten so much hotter.
right.
They're gone soon.
That's a challenge for us with the events that we have that time of year. That's a challenge, and that's why it kind of went away. But we'll keep that in mind. That's a good. I agree with you, Judy.
First, let me also acknowledge, we'll thank Candy and John for doing this for us. I I want to thank also another group of people who are our education docents who help us stage all of our education events, help us with field trips, kids' classes, family events, etc. All of the docents, raise your hands. Raise your hand, buddy. Thank you all so much. You know, things like this, it's like setting up for your family Thanksgiving dinner. They don't happen on their own, so this is important. I want to issue 2 invitations. One is, Candy and John have talked about Magnolia Hill and about our greenhouses and all the work we do here. That again is like planning your Thanksgiving dinner. If you have not taken the opportunity to walk either up the road or up through the Sawata Camellia Garden, take a walk up to Magnolia Hill and understand the enterprise that goes on here and the effort that goes on here. If you want to go a little bit further, you can actually go to our production greenhouses. Those are all open to the public. So get a notion of what your Mobile Botanical Gardens is all about. It's not just about the plant sale. It's not just about big events in this room. So that's a big invitation. Second invitation is come to the plant sale. But as John says, come prepared, and if you can, come early. Come often. Thank you.